I opened my closet and I realized basically every item of clothing was 100% or 50% or 2% plastic. You know, I had been working with NFW for like a week. And I opened my closet and I realized, I really took stock for the first time of the fact that basically every item of clothing was 100% or 50% or 2% plastic. And then I looked around the rest of the apartment and I realized that almost every surface that I touch, if it wasn't a piece of wood furniture, was entirely made of or characterized in some way by plastic. And I hadn't really understood prior to working for NFW that all of that was originally crude oil, came from fossil fuels, and has been treated with hazardous chemistries and has no destiny but to become plastic waste and microplastic pollution at some point in time. You know, it's a fundamentally extractive paradigm that we've created. It's a systemic problem that requires systemic solutions.
For me, one of my early childhood memories, the day I was signed up to join the library. It was the most exciting day of my life. My dad took me and he signed me up for the library. I'd been waiting for it for years and years. And I was like 6 or 7. And it was a great day. And I got my first 2 books from the library. I read them all and I was done that day. And it still remains one of my best childhood memories. All right. Now, when I look at what we do, because we provide light, right? Now, for many people living in the rural areas, life ends at sunset. There's nothing you can do because you have no light. But now that you provide light, you have children that are able to read. They're able to experience that joy that I experienced. And to me, that totally, moves me when I meet some of these children. I mean, as d.light, we track sort of how many school children, are accessing our product. And that globally right now, that's at 75 million. That's a big impact and, warms your heart. But when you meet the individual children and you start seeing them doing better at school because they can do their homework, they can read for longer, it's just fulfilling.
First, I was doing my master and I really want to work with an applied science, so how to really use science and technology to really create a solution for a real problem. And I'm originally from Brazil, and I was in a lecture, and the lecturer said, 1/3 of all food is wasted, and food waste is a huge problem, but could be an opportunity. And that kind of stuck with me. And I was like, okay, how can I know what the problem I want to do, and how I can kind of stick fermentation, that's the technology that I'm really excited about, on that. And that was my PhD project, actually. So it's really using fermentation to transform the side streams. So to avoid food becoming waste into ingredients. So keeping food as food.
The moment will be when, of course, my parents are farmers. I come from a farming family. And during COVID, my parents called me and said that they have lost a lot of milk revenue because they could not be able to sell the milk to the urban markets as the way they wanted to sell, which is probably fetch a premium. And it triggered me to think of a better way to help them access these markets, and that was the sort of the genesis of Keep It Cool, just trying to help them access the market and reduce the losses of the milk that they were not able to sell.
My mind was blown. We recreated somebody else's PhD in about 5 weeks. There's all these people out there trying to do conservation and environmental management, and they don't have any data to know what works and to make sure they're doing it, spending the really very limited amounts of funding that has to be spent so well to get the outcomes that we need, and it wasn't available. So first of all, just this real urgency to do something and take it out of academia and make it available. And then, I think over the years, seeing time and time again, my mind is blown by the data that we can get from just filtering a litre of water. And I spent years in the Amazon doing old-fashioned biodiversity surveys, and we see more species come out of a couple of litres of water than I saw in 2 years in the Amazon. But then for a long time, all of our data was coming out in the form of Excel spreadsheets, which I'm like, I can look at this and be amazed by it because I have the background context. But you can't walk into a boardroom with that, especially when it's like 3,000 species of fungi. Now what we've been doing is really presenting that data in a different way, bringing it to life. Data is stories, and it's how do you tell those stories to drive the right actions. So that for me now is really a completion of what I envisaged.
I spent time in Africa in the late 1990s, traveling on my own. And there was I had a realization at the time that with the disparity that was happening in the world, and then that there was a need for things to change. And then shortly after that, I got very involved on the climate change side of things. And again, there was a magnitude of a challenge that needed big solutions. And so for 25 years now, I've been working on solutions to help tackle some of these big sustainability challenges.
It's a really strange one for me, the MiAlgae story, because it was very intentional. So I was looking at building a company or an organization that really did good for the world. And I'm hugely passionate about the ocean. And when I found out that we were mincing up more fish to feed farmed fish, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it just was something that's stuck with me ever since.